Okay, so I believe my screen is now visible to everyone. So I'm going to now copy the script. So Control A. Okay, going to the Python first to my first terminal. How do you copy it? First, you need to truncate the existing file or nullify it, and then we need to open the nano editor, nano systemmetric.py, and you paste it. Control Shift V, paste it the full file. Okay. So and then save. Control X, Shift Y, enter. Okay. And then go to the Ruby script. Okay. So clear up all the screen and truncate the file like this. Systemmetric.rb and nano editor. Open the nano editor and sorry, we need to copy the Ruby script. Control A, copy and paste it here. Okay. So just check from the top to bottom if the full script is there or not. So copy paste properly and Control X, Shift Y, enter, save, and go to the shell script. Okay, here we need to truncate the file or nullify the file and then open it with the nano editor. Systemmetric.sh and go to the Sublime. Control A, Control copy, and hash and all these things. So up to the case statement I've copied and Control X, Shift Y, and enter. Okay. So now I have saved that file, that respective programs, Python, Ruby, and Shell on all the respective files. Now we have to execute it. Okay. So how do we execute it? Sudo systemmetric.py. You execute it. I think now you are seeing that it is saying index error list out of range, something like that in Python. That's we'll fix it. Okay, errors is important. Now let's go to the Ruby and see what is happening there in Ruby. Okay, so system metric RB. This is now properly giving the output. Okay, Ruby is now properly giving the output. Expected output is help system load and all that. And if you go to the shell script, okay, try this one. So this is also fairly pushing the expected output. Okay. So in Python, I got a crack. Okay. So in Ruby, I got some output, expected one. If I don't give any arguments or if I give some random arguments in my own interest, the script will always end like system metric that be like that. So it will show how to use the script. Okay. And in shell script also, it worked that exact way. But in Python, it didn't work that way. Okay. So what could possibly be going wrong in Python? So first, let me explain that. That issue, I think I know that issue was there in the real script also. Okay. If you see that you don't give any arguments in Python, okay, if you don't give any arguments, for example, in the command line, if you don't give load memory or anything, you will generally get into the array is not actually filled. Okay, the array is not actually filled, and because of that you are getting this is array index error. Okay, which means this one which we give for the Python array is that argv array is actually not having any element in the index one. So that is why it is saying index error. It's small interpretation. But suppose if you see in this Python script, if I give load, the script it seems to execute the things properly. So it's my bad that I didn't have the right condition checks here. So I should not even if the argv of one is null or if it is not there, okay, then I should not even come into checking into this place. So that filter I should have actually done, but I didn't do it that way. Okay, and because of that, we are getting this issue. We can fix that. That's not a big issue. Okay, so type load You see, it is now getting the system load function. Okay, so type memory. Okay, it now shows calculating system memory. So type storage. Okay, it triggers the system storage function. If you type A B C D X Y Z something, it says the proper help text. Okay, except the small error which we didn't handle that condition. We have tested all the other things. Okay, except that small error in Python. Now, if you go to the Ruby, okay, you try the same thing. Load, it will calculate system load. If you say memory, it will get the system memory. If you say storage, it will say calculate system storage. Okay. Similarly, if you go to the bash script, if you say load, it will say calculate system load. It will say memory. If you say storage, if you say ABCD XYZ, okay, then it says the help text. Now, fairly with some small glitches and all that, if you can see here, the Python, the Ruby, and the shell script, exactly the same logic. I'm triggering the functions based on my arguments. If I give memory, it will trigger the memory calculating functions, get my system memory. If the user gives argument like storage, it will hit the storage level things. If the user gives something like some other A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z or something, and then he gets this help text. So that's fairly that logic is implemented in Python. It's implemented in Ruby. It's implemented in Shell also. Okay. So how many of you get this kind of an output? Forget about the index error. That's my mistake. I didn't fix that long time back also. If you have array length calculation and all of that, then that will overcome. But we don't need the complex that. We leave it. Okay. Now, so far what we have built. Okay. So you see here, we are now going step by step only. I'm not hurrying anything. So now if you see here, we have now built the layout very effectively. Okay. The layout of the script is very effectively done. And here also in Ruby, the layout and the structural layout of the script is done. In shell scripting also, we have done the structural layout work very effectively. Okay, so the script is now capable of switching between the functions based on the user arguments. You have now a CLI support. You have now arguments properly parsed. So that is structural layout. So what we have now built according to the Obsidian's Excalibur drawing is that you see here, this whiteboard. What I told is, this is what's the structural layout of the script. Okay, we have now accomplished this from the shebang to the so and so things. We have now accomplished these things completely. There's totally 7 steps. Okay, and I've also showed how this can be comparable with the init script, the RSSV init systems init script, and you now know how it's all matches. So my point is, I want to show that programming is not like a very tough thing, okay, that you imagine. It's a very complicated one. It is never like that. It's very, very easy thing, provided the approach is right. Okay, I was concentrating on the use case more and not about if else or the conditions and functions and all. I'm concentrating the use case. Okay, if your concentration is the logic and the use case, then you can almost code in any programming language in a matter of 10 days just to get the syntaxes. Okay, so but if we focus on syntaxes and see how the function and this, if we marvel at all those things, then we don't get into the logic and the use case. Then it will be a bit tougher. The fine takeaway is, in the last 5-6 hours we have done, the key takeaways are this. Whatever I've been focusing, if you notice, I'm just focusing only on the use case. I'm right on the money. I'm not actually worried about what's, even you saw that I'm copy pasting some syntaxes from my own code. Yeah, I just copy pasted. I actually don't know. Okay, if you tell me to type it without editor, it will be way wrong results will come. Okay, so focusing on the syntax and focusing on other things is not the right thing. Focusing on the use case and focusing on the functionality and focusing on the business logic will make you a better programmer. Not if you, if even if you remember 100 syntaxes very rightly and you can write fluently, if you cannot understand the functionality and the key focus of the program, what's the objective and what's the thing you are trying to accomplish, or what's the business logic, then I think even if you know 100 syntaxes very rightly, you can sit and type without any support from the GitHub or Stack Overflow, then it's a waste of time. Okay, that's the conclusion I just wanted to make. Now, however, the script has to be having some conclusion. Okay, so we have to complete some part at least. Okay, by today. So we have now done up to the CLI parsing. You know, now we are calling the write functions. Now we need to write the final step. Okay, according to this Obsidian's view, what we have done in the whiteboard, you can see here that I said something called as business logic. Business logic. Business logic. Now, what we have done so far is just putting some plain print statements to just check and see how to whether it's working or not. But what about the business logic? So that actually does the work for us, right? So now let's try to write it like that. So if you see here, I'm going to get the system load means. Now, what is the best way to get system load in Python? Okay, if you see Python's OS module, okay, the OS module has lots of low-level bindings. Okay, so you can see something called as, there is something called as get load average. Okay, get load average. So this is a very useful API which is in the OS module that helps you to get the system load average metric. Okay, now practically what I'm trying to say, you can test it along with me. Okay, so go to the first terminal where you are in the Python code. Okay, so what do you do is now type W command. Okay, so the W command now shows some output inside the VM. Okay, so I'm inside the VM. You type W command. This is the 1 minute load average. This is the 5 minute, and this is the 15 minute. Okay, you can use a shell script way of parsing things and commands to get this input and process it in Python. That is possible. It's possible. But every time when you approach something like this system operation, you need to check the internet if there is any Python level API is there or not. Okay, so now if I go to my browser and I just try to search for that, let's say Python get system load average. Okay, average. Okay, so if you do that, there will be lots of threads coming and all that. But you can see here that this when you see in the top 3-4 things are not, if you click the Stack Overflow and all that, you can see there are different ways people solve this issue. Okay, people solve this issue in different ways. Some people say that you use process PSUtil module to get that. Some people say you do this, that, and all that. There are many ways of getting things done. Okay, so what is the very simplistic way on getting this output and using that? Now, if you see here, there is another thread. You can see Geeks for Geeks or something like that. Here you can see that they mentioned the use of get load average method. So this is standard Python built-in API. Okay, so you have this function. We can also call it as a API. Okay, so it's exposed as a module. So it's programmer's interface. So you see os.getLoadAverage method in Python can provide you the 1 minute, 5 minute, and 15 minute values. It's very, very easy to get it. Okay. And if you want to get it in the hardcore Linux way, yeah, you can actually get that. Okay, you can actually get that. But if you see here, this is something that you can very easily get it. Okay. So that is why I'm going to use this one. Okay. Now, how do you understand that? You can come to the Python's interactive console. Now, these are all the times when you see the interactive console helps you to understand what it means actually. Okay. Now, after running the W command, you see here, I'm going to run my Python 3 interactive console. Okay. So Python 3 interactive console, how do you run? Python 3 -i. Okay. Now, what do you do now? You type according to my screen. Okay, import OS and print. What I'm going to print now? OS dot, what is that? Get load average, right? I'm just copying from here. You guys see my screen and type. Maybe may take some time, but you type. Okay. You see, it's now returning something like a tuple 1, 5, 15. Right? You see, I mean, it's a VM, so you don't get some metrics. Suppose if you ask me whether I can show that in my host machine, you can't run it. It's a Windows host machine, but I will try. Okay. I will show the same thing. Python, I think Python, which Python I'm having. The Python is 3 or which Python I have? 3.8. Okay. So Python -I import OS. Okay. And what was the other thing? Print. OS dot get load average. So you can see this is my host machine's last 1 minute, 5 minute, and 15-minute load averages. Maybe in the VM you don't have any load, nothing is running inside, so you may find it totally 000 here. Okay, but if you see my host machine, yeah, I'm using the Teams, I'm using the browsers, I'm using my Obsidian, I'm using Sublime, many things, so browsers and all that. So you find something happening. So 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes. So this is another easy way of getting that. Okay. If you want to get the hardcore way, you need to use Linux commands like grep, awk, and all that. Yeah, that is also a way of getting it. Okay. So I'm not saying this is right and that is right. I'm just making life simple for me. Okay. So by using the right simplistic option. So why do I need to do all my parsing if Python itself is giving something like this API? Right? So that's a logic. Okay. So this is what is the method I'm going to use. Sorry, function. Okay, from the OS model. Now you can say Control D to exit it. Control D to exit the interpreter. Interactive mode. Okay. So exit here also. I will exit. I will close this one because the fourth terminal will confuse. Now, what I'm going to do, we have to see here how to incorporate that API here. Okay. So I'm going to now write it like, so sometime back I showed that when you ask for run system load, first you need to ask the user whether you want 1 minute or 5 minutes or 15 minutes. First you need to ask, right? Then only you can go and get the input from the user and trigger that correct thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to ask input from the user. Okay. If you want to get input from the user, Python is having its own way. If you see here in the script, okay. So there is a function in the Python, built-in Python called input, I-N-P-U-T, input. Okay. This function is a function, built-in function. It helps you to stream the input from the user's command line interface and process it in the function Python. Okay. So now I'm going to say print statement. Okay. Please listen carefully. This is a business logic. Okay. So enter the time range. Enter the time range for system load. That is 1, 5, or 15, like this. Okay. So when the statement is getting printed out in the terminal, it may look so appealing that you can find that you are asking what kind of enter. We don't need the and all. So enter time range for system load, whether 1 or 5 or 15. 3 values you can accept. Okay. And then immediately, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable. Okay, please watch my screen. Okay, you can do it then after this. Please watch this, important. So I'm going to say time span, or let's say time range. Okay, time range equal to, I'm going to say input. Okay, input. If I run this time range equal to input, what will happen is this input will prompt user input. It will prompt user input in the CLI. It's not the argument that you pass in the command line. It prompts a live user input. Okay, so it will wait there. So that's what this input built-in function is all about. Okay, so I'm now mapping that variables out, and whatever the user gives, it is now getting mapped to a variable. Time range is a variable inside the function. That's all. Okay. And if you see here in our code, you can see I'm embedding this input function inside a int function. That's also a built-in function. Why I am doing is because whatever input that the user gives will be in a string. It will be an UTF-8 string, or sorry, Unicode string or something like that. Okay. You don't want to process it. You want an integer. It has to be converted to integer. If the user gives ABCD, it will say it's out of range, invalid input. You know, that's what we have to handle. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert my input into integer. If a person gives you ABCD, ABCD is not 1, 5, or 15. It's not a number or an integer. So what do you have to do? Logical sense. You should say invalid input. So that's why we always need to, when you get inputs from the user, always, okay, we have to be a bit careful on what type of input we are getting and how do we convert it into our desired data type. Okay, so int is a data type. Okay, string is a data type. Float is a data type. So we are using integer. 1, 5, 15s are integers. So whatever input he gives, we will try to convert it into an integer. If ABCD is given, it will not convert it, and then we have to handle that output. Okay, that's what you see here. We have done some else statement here. You see why we are doing it like that. So now I'm going to write that logic. Please listen carefully. So time range equal to input from the user. Then I'm going to have my plain if condition. Okay. So if time range, okay, equal to again conditional statement if equal to 1, then what load you are calculating? You are calculating the 1 minute load. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable and say OS dot that is the API we got that terminal. Sorry, OS dot I think I forgot that. OS dot get average. Okay, copy and then 0. Okay, so when you say 0, which means it will pick the first element from the tuple. That is 1 minute. Okay, suppose if you are going to go for the let's say if the user input is 5, okay, if the user is giving input is 5, okay, and then we say the output equal to OS dot get load average function, and you call the 1. 1 means the second. Okay, and then if the user is giving 15, time range is 15. Okay, sorry, 15. Okay, and then you see output equal to OS dot get load average. Okay, 2. That's it. That's all. The job is done. Okay, I didn't write any fancy complex loopings and all that. I just used some of my conditions. I just used Python's way of getting the load average. This is the recommended way. I didn't do any of my shell command parsing and piping out. I didn't do anything. This is very simple logic. Okay, so tell the user you need to give some input and get the input whatever the user gives, convert it into an integer and store it in a variable like time range. And then in the variable you have the value. So check it with what the user has given. So this is something user given, and this is something you are testing against. If this is true, it will go into this. If this is true, this will go into this. It will take 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. If the user is giving ABCD input, okay, playing with the system, then what you can say is say print invalid input. That's it. Okay, print invalid input. That's all 4. Okay, so we need to have this control. Okay, whatever I am trying to do is very, very simple. It's just a very common sense logic. Okay, nothing, anything very highly complicated code. I just showed what the OS get load average says, and I'm just trying to uh, get the user's input, convert the input into an integer. If that guy is faulting the input, then I think it will go back here, invalid input, because time range is not going to 1, 5, 15. It will be some other thing, and it will just go here, and the system will exit. If this is not true, if everything is fine, if the user is really given some input, we are now going to get the output. Okay, so output means the numbers which will come from the system, and we can very goodly print it. So how do you print it? Print in Python, you can have this placeholder. So I will just say the system load average for let's say percentage I. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minute is um, string. Output will be mostly string, and then it's the syntax. Okay, if you want to have placeholders, okay, integer means percentage I, percentages means string. Okay, so when you get output, mostly it will be string. What input you give, time range, it will be integer. What you are converting. So I'm just going to embed it like in a better way. So it's called string formatting. Okay, so we are now formatting the string with our own placeholders and beautifying the output. Okay, so the system load average for if the user has given time range 1 means that first thing is here, and then we have the output. Okay, so this I, first you are saying I stands for this time range, and percentages stands for this output. So this is string formatting. You are beautifying it. Okay, instead of just saying print and printing it without any proper way, this is a very recommended way of printing your text in Python. Okay, you embed variables inside this place, so the output is very dynamic. Okay, so we are substituting this I with the time, and this percentages means string with the output. Okay, sorry, with the output. So this is what actually we are doing here. Okay, you see clearly the code. I explain this again. Okay, first I just wrote a print statement. Okay, and the print statement says, okay, please enter the time range, which means you are prompting input from the user. Without giving the input, the system will be holding the PTY. Okay, and then once the user input comes, okay, that is now translated into or converted into an integer data type in Python, and then you put that thing in the what you again have your conditional statements. If time range given by the user is 1, you run this API. You 1, 5, 15, you run this API and take the value 0, 1, 2. I showed what I showed what will be the output. So you see 0 and you see 1, this 2, and that's what I've given here, 0, 1, 2. Okay, and then if the user is trying to play with the system giving fault arguments, you need to say I think you are wrong. Okay, so you need to pass on the user, say invalid input, and then if everything is right, then you get the print statement finally in the function. Okay, saying the system load average is percentage 1, minute is percentages. This will be substituted here, and this value, output value, will be substituted here. Whenever you double click on a variable, you can very clearly see that you have where it is all used and referenced. You can see. So that's why the code editor is very, very important for coding. Okay. Now, sorry. And now there is, so this is what I have constructed. Okay. This is the Python version. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, Control A, copy this one, and I'm going to test whether this logic is really right or wrong. Okay. So if you once you copied it, you go to the terminal. In the first terminal, you can see we have to open the truncate the file. Truncate the file. system metric.py, and then we have to open the system metric. We have to open the uneditor. Okay, uneditor, and then okay. So I've pasted it now. Whatever I've written, so we can see here. Okay, so it's there. So I now save this one. First, I'm testing it with Python alone, whether my logic is right or wrong. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm going to execute it. So sudo / system. What is that load, right? So system metric by load. Okay. So now you can see my code is now asking for user prompt. How do you know that it is prompting input from the user? Because you see this PTY is holding. It's blocking now. Without giving an input, it is not going to go to the next step. Okay. So it is expecting a standard input now. Okay. It means standard input, standard input, standard output, standard error, standard input it is now expecting. So you give, say, let's say 5. I don't know. So now when I give 5, the system is saying average load for 5 minutes is 0.0. 0.0 is expected in the VM. Okay. You can't do anything about it. There's no load inside the VM. Okay. Suppose if you want to have the load 1 minute, that's also fairly 0 because it's nothing load inside the VM. So small script is executing, it's true. Okay. So that is how you get some output. Okay. Suppose if you give ABCD and then it enter, you get an error, right? You see here, there is an error coming here. There is an error coming. Okay. So you see, we are now getting into an error here, value error. Okay, because this string cannot be this string that you have. Okay, that it's a text, it's a alphabets. It cannot be converted into an integer, and that's why you are seeing that this is not convertible, or you get the value error like that. We can handle all these things and solve. Okay, but that's not the big thing for now. Okay, at least we need to complete the logic properly. Okay, so if we want to make the system more script more foolproof and more handling all the errors and all, yeah, we can use try-catch exceptions to handle this value error and all that. But that's not for needed for now, because we are now getting started. Okay, catching mechanism and throwing exceptions mechanism and all. We need some more bit experience in handling that. Then it will be more pleasing. Okay. For now, just leave this. This is not a big wrong thing for us. Okay. So this is working fine. Okay, working fine. Now we need to simulate the similar logic in Ruby. Okay, so this is Python. Now we have to do the very same calculation in Ruby. Okay, now I'm coming to the Ruby part. So I just need this code open because I may copy paste from here. So this is get system load. So I'm going to say print what I print. So print means same text. Enter the range for system load. I'm just copying this exactly. Okay. And then in Ruby, I'm going to get the time range, same variable names. Okay, I'm not going to change that also. Okay. In Ruby, you can get something like std in. If you want to get user prompt, what is that? User input, prompting input from the user and store that in a variable means in Ruby there is something called as $stdin. That's a built-in standard input file descriptor in the Linux. I mean, that's low level explanation, but high level it's $stdin. Okay. So $stdin actually gives the standard input. Sometime back I told, right? Standard input, standard output, standard error. Okay. So we are streaming the standard input from the user. He gives that because of the prompt. Standard input, and then what you do is gets. Okay, gets means read from that standard input, and we need to convert it into integer. You see, whatever I have done, whatever I have done in the Python, I am trying to simulate a very similar thing here. I get the input from the standard input from, I get the user's input from the standard input in the system using the input API, so input function in the built-in function in Python, and converting it into integer and storing it in the time range variable. Now here also, I am trying to get the input from the user and take that and convert it into integer. Okay, I do the same operation, but this is Python way of doing. This is Ruby way of doing. To underscore I means convert the given value into integer. That's all. That's Ruby way. Okay, but the logic is ultimately the same. Okay, now I'm going to the next step, that is how to construct the logic. Okay, so again, we have the if else's. I think I don't know what I have used here. I think here also I've used it. You can also use case statement if you want. That's going to work. That works. Okay. Suppose if you want me to show it with a case statement, I can show it with a case statement, like not in the code here. You can write the same logic in case statement also. Okay. So case time range. Okay, case time range. I will just see the below one, and you see when condition. When condition is 1, you do something. When condition is 5, you do something. When condition is 15, you do something, and then you end. If nothing else, we can write the same thing in Ruby else if. Okay, you can see here in this code I've used the else if in Ruby. Okay, but for a change, I'm just trying to convert it into a case statement and doing it. Both things, yeah, it works fine. Okay, so logic is logic. Because the logic is right, doesn't matter whatever you use, it will work. Okay, so in Ruby to get it, here we use cat proc load advantage. That is going to also give you the load. Okay, cat command. So I just first run and show it to you what's the output of a cat command. So I'll run it here. Ruby doesn't have a direct binding for getting the load average. Okay, but Python does have. Okay, but Ruby doesn't have. So I'm going to use this cat proc load average file. I'm just going to use the cat command, read the content, and get these three first inputs. Okay. Now, if you see here, I'm going to use the awk programming, saying like what is in the script. Okay, you see here, AWK. It's a copy here, paste. Okay. So listen carefully. What I am trying to do, I'm going to embed it into the Ruby code. So cat talk load average provides you this output. I just want these three things to be passed. I don't want what is this. Okay. So in order to filter that output and process the output, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the awk programming. Awk is a text processor. Sed is a text processor, stream editor, text stream editor. Awk is also a text processor. It's all mostly grep, awk, sed. All these are very famous Linux utilities that helps you to parse the output and convert, manipulate the output like that, manipulate a file like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is if I say print 1, I will get the first value. If I say print $2, I will get the second value. 3 means I get the third value. 4 means I get the fourth value. 5 means I get the fifth value. Okay. Just try running this. You know what we are actually trying to accomplish here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and see how that how the awk is now processing that. So you get an output. You pass this output as an input to the awk program, and the awk is now throwing 1, 2, 3. You get this output 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Okay, so we are going to use this command inside Ruby because I don't know whether Ruby has a state binding to load average like Python. That's not their API. So we need to do it in this way. Okay. So once this is trialed, what we need to do is we need to go to the script. Okay. So we need to paste this command here like this. Okay. So now if the time range is 1, okay, what we need to do is we need to say output equal to output equal to, I think, let me check the syntax, output equal to, you see here, I'm also using backticks here very effectively. Backticks works here. Okay, Ruby script, I think most of the time I always use the backticks, so we just use the backticks here. Okay, so just using the backticks, this is for load average 1, and a similar thing for load average 2, and for the load average, sorry, 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute. If nothing is going to work, then say print invalid input. Okay, invalid input, put a backslash in, that's all. Okay, so you can write, I mean, I could have went through the if else, if else, if else, if in Ruby and could have completed that logic. But what I'm for change, I'm just trying to implement a case statement here with Ruby here. That is also going to work. Okay, so this is way how you can try it in Ruby. Now, we do not know whether this works or not. I mean, that's not at even complete. So I need to put a print statement. In the print statement, I'm going to say the similar print statement here. The system load average for 1 minute. So I just take the string and I'm just going to put it here. Okay. And I think I have to, in Ruby, embedding a variable is very simple. That is time span or time range. And then here you have embed like the output. Okay, so this is how you construct the same logic what we had in the Python with a similar, a case, switch case in Ruby. Okay, you now see this is the similar printing statement. You get the standard input from the user and convert it into an integer, which is 2 underscore I, store it in a variable, and use that variable to switch between the cases as conditions. And if that is not the right variable, you get invalid input. If everything is right, I think you should be able to get the time range and all that. Okay, printing in the statements is, so it will complete like this with the backslash n. Okay, I think I need to use double quotes for this. Syntaxically, I don't know whether it will be right or wrong. So double quotes. Okay, so this is the way how we do it with Ruby. You get the point, right? And now we are going to say Control A, copy, and I'm going to run it. Okay, and see whether that logic works or not. Okay, so how do you run it? First, you truncate the file, truncate the Ruby script, and then open with the nano editor systemmetric.rb file. Paste. Okay, here the logic is there, and we'll see why if something is not working, we have to fix that. Okay, so Control X, Shift to Y, and enter, and then we need to run the script with the load. Okay, so as of now, it is now saying to enter time range for system load 1, 5, or 15. So I just say 5. Okay, so it says the system load average for 5 minutes is 0. So the thing is working. I wrote it in a case statement, but still the logic is same. Okay, whether you write it in if or if else or whatever it is, the thing is same. Okay, then if you give 15, it will respond. If you give maybe the dot was in the last, so it was after the line break, it's a wrong thing. So I should have given the so I think we need to strip the output. Okay, so that's why we used to, but that's not an issue. Okay, we can fix all that. So you get some kind of output like this, 5 minute, 15 minute load. And if you see here, if you give some ABCD value, we'll see some error should. Here you give load, and then you give here ABCD like that. Okay, so it says invalid input, and the system load average for 0 minute is something like that. So it works, but it's not very cleansed output. Okay, so let's go to the next step. Okay, so we see here this place. We are going to now do the similar thing with bash. Okay, bash shell scripting. Okay, so how do I do it? So again, printing the similar logic. So going to say print printf. So enter the time span or time range for the load. Okay, time range for the load. I'm putting it here. And then what we are going to do is we are going to ask for the user input. In bash, user input is okay. I think you don't need to do it this way. There is something called as read. They're not printing like this. Read -p, you can get the user input, which means the standard input from the user. Okay, prompting and getting the standard input from the user. You can use the read. Forgot that it's not printf. Okay, so read -p, enter the time range for system load, something like this, and you can store it in a shell variable like this. Okay, so let's say time range like this. Okay, I just checked my syntax on how I'm storing it in the shell script here. So if I'm not wrong, I should be okay. So this is the way how I'm storing it. Okay. Now that is fine. Okay. So if you see here, I've stored it in the time range variable. Okay, whatever if you run this read command, you will get that user prompt. Okay, it will hold the PTY, the user has to give the input. Then what we have to do is we have to write the conditional statements. Okay, conditional statements is like even if you in the bash, if you want to go with the case statement, if you want me to write it like that, I can show it like that. Okay, so that is possible. But if you want me to write it in if else, I can write it. But if else is already in the code. If you see here in the actual script, we have the if else thing. But I will just try to write it with case statements. Case statements more beautiful than that. Okay, so case time range in. So I'm just checking the syntax here and typing. Okay, case in, and then if the what is that? End is ESEC. That's the end. And in this, I'm going to say if the thing is 1, I don't know whether it will work or not, but I'm just trying. Okay. If it is 1, then I need to use this output equal to, it should not have space here. Okay. Output equal to, we can use this one, cat proc load average. This thing actually works here. Okay. Here you can't use the backticks because of this is assigned to a variable. So I'm using dollar. So dollar. So you can embed it like this. Okay. So 1 minute means I'm using the same shell command which I used in Ruby to get that value. So I'm using the very similar thing. I don't know what I use in the this place. I think here also we are using the similar thing. That's fine. Okay. That works. Okay. And then I'm going to have the other case, which is 15, which is going to be like output equal to dollar cat. I think we have to have a delimiter. That's 1, and this is 2. And then if we have 15, if it's string, I think if it is integer, I think that should work, but I'm not sure how that is going to pass. Okay, I haven't tried it with case statements. Okay, so 3, 3. Okay, and if that is not all the case, then the final thing is you need to write, say, invalid input. I think we need to have the double the syntax. Okay, so I have to be right with the syntax, else I will get errors. Okay, I'm copying. And then star, then you have print statement, printf, if it is not all going to be right, invalid input. Okay, and with a backslash, and that's all. And if it is all right, okay, if it is all right, okay, you should have a print statement like this. How did you have the Ruby and Python? So very similarly, we need to have the print statement. Just copy this thing, and we need to put this outside of the case. Okay, the system load average for I think it's $time. okay, dollar time range in it is dollar output. That's all. In Bash, it is for the most simple. Okay. So, sorry, this is printf. Okay, printf, and this, I don't think we need that. Okay. Yeah, fine. Maybe slight inconsistency will be there. So this is in the Bash script. Okay, taking the user input and processing exactly like how we did it in the Ruby. We have a case statement. Here also I'm using the case statement in Bash. And if it is 1, and I'm having this thing to execute, if it is 2, this thing to execute, sorry, 5, then we have 15. So exactly I'm interpreting, exactly I'm replicating what I've done in the Ruby. Okay, and then you see if finally if nothing is working, I say invalid input. And if everything is fine, the thing is processed means you will get the output at the end of the day, time range and output. Okay, I'm now copying that code and I'm going to now put it in my third terminal. Okay, that is, I'm going to again truncate my shell script and open the nano editor and say system-metric.sh. Okay, and paste my shell script here. Okay, and then I have something and say exit, save, yes, enter. Okay, so first you need to truncate the script, and then we need to open the nano editor and do something. And then finally we will run. I think I will get some syntax error. I'm not confident. So let me run. Okay, after this, fine. So let's say 5-minute average. Okay, I think it's a syntax error. So saying 5 invalid input. Okay, load, it's invalid input. I think if I give 15, it's not going to. Okay, so you see, it's now getting into the invalid input section. So I think I have made a mistake. I should actually use dollar time range. Okay, my bad. Okay, I forgot the dollar. That's why it was misinterpreting, and that's my bad. Okay, it's not the quotes and all that. Okay, so just my mistake. Okay, so now I think it should work. Okay, I get the input, but when you call the variable, you must always use the dollar symbol. I think I didn't use the dollar symbol. That's the wrong thing. If you see here and all, we use dollar symbol to get something, which was defined earlier. So I think this time I think it should work. That's not need for the quotes and all that. I just go plainly and quit this one. Okay, this is not the right thing. Close, open, and first let me try first. It should work for me. Okay, and now if you check 5-minute, now working, perfectly working. 5-minute, then let's say 15-minute, yeah, working. See, that's the fault. Okay, so when you write in 3 different syntax stylings, you obviously get confused on what is what. Okay, because in Ruby, Python, and all, you just don't need to say dollar and all that to reference. But here, if you see here, shell scripting is very strict, so we have to use things very properly. Okay, so I think we can't complete all the functionalities of the script. If you see here for memory calculation, we use similar tactic. For storage calculation, also we use similar tactic. When you have, we will give you certain tasks, okay, based on this, okay, so that if you can write the code, you will be able to put the code in your GitHub portfolio. So far, we haven't started to build our portfolio, as we said, okay. So everyone has to try this one. We have now tried to construct the script from the scratch. That looks now not like a very newbie script, but it's a bit of a matured script only. It's not a newbie script now. Okay. So we are doing lots of important system level operations and getting the output, passing it and all. So we are not writing a newbie script like hello world or printing sample text and all that. Okay. So that's how the script is now standing in a matured way. Okay, so we started with the shebang, then we had some description, we had some importing, and then we had some ACLs, then we had the function construct, and then we have the CLI parsing and switching the functions, and now we have the business logic also inside all the functions, most in the at least in the one function. Okay, So this is how you actually get started. What we have done today and yesterday is we have showed way for people to get started. Suppose you haven't done any programming throughout your life, and you are so worried about it and you get frustrated. Means this session will help you to really see how simple it is. Okay, and my centric focus on this session is only the use case, the DevOps use case which I took. And then the second thing is I am just focusing on the logics and how to build the logics. Okay, I didn't focus on syntaxes at all, and that's why I just went references and searched the syntaxes and taking. Okay, I didn't by heart anything. Okay, in the natural flow we are doing this. Yesterday I just reviewed the code, how it was written, because I have to go fluently. So I just made a review yesterday, honestly, say just checking how the code was written. But if you see here the way how I constructed, I changed so many things from the real script we have in the GitHub. Yeah, okay, this possible. Okay. So why it was working properly, whether it is different syntaxes or different stylings and different things, how that is working, because the logic is same everywhere. We just focus the logic, we just focus the use case. That's all. Nothing more than that. And finally, if you see the structuring, what we had in the Obsidian, you see here the structuring. We now have brought that structuring here. Okay, it's a similar structure we see in the runs history init scripts. So that's a very highly good standard. This is how you get started. Okay, today is a getting started, today and yesterday. I mean, you guys should not leave this fire to just leave and maybe at some point in time it grows cold. Okay, if you want to excel in your DevOps work life and you want to be an highly good competitor in interviews, these are all things. If you know how to code in Python, Ruby, and shell scripting, I think you can crack any of the toughest interviews that you've done. Even in product companies, you can very easily crack. In that beginning session, okay, I told people that. So I think this slide I may have showed in the first day, and I told that we have to get hands-on with certain things, okay, like programming, so that in your interview sessions you don't really panic. Okay, if you know how to do code, I think your confidence level will be very high. Okay, so but sadly, many people actually don't come to these kinds of sessions. Okay, they think it's all about Docker, Kubernetes, and all that. It is not the true story at the end of the day. Okay, so when you get into interviews with that attitude that it is Docker and Kubernetes, you can just survive. I know most of our candidates didn't cross the line. Okay, because they take Linux very lethargically. Mostly the problem always happens in Linux. Okay, people treat Linux sessions, it's not just very important for DevOps, but at the end of the day, whatever we have written here in the script, you know, in front of your eyes only I wrote all that. What these things are all about: load average, these things, system telemetry. Okay, used in observability stats, very live use case for Nagios, for EMK, particularly when you're using Nagios kind of observability systems, you know, it's all very live use cases. But at the end of the day, if you want to do something with these kinds of use cases, you need to know what is load average at least. What is 1 minute load, 5-minute load, 15-minute load. Then only you can get that from whether it is in Python or Ruby or anything. That's where Linux stands a very important place in all through this 8-9 months. Okay, so please don't take Linux lethargically, or please don't take this programming sessions also lethargically. This is all very important. Showed all these things. I wrote all the code from ground zero scratch. Okay, I didn't copy paste. Okay, so I wrote logic by logic, line by line, piece by piece. I constructed one by one. So you should not forget this. So I have to stop by now. Okay, so the scripting is not complete. Okay, so it has some more small things there, like we have to calculate the storage and load, I mean memory and all that, but that's the same logic, like so fine. Okay, so I'm going to now start my session. So my session is over for today.